Hello, I'm Claire Smith and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a Perfume Empties video. I haven't filmed one of these for about 6 months. I last made one back in May, and I tend to wait until I've got quite a few perfume bottles to talk about before I film one of these videos, because I just think it just makes a nicer video, doesn't it, if you've got more to talk about. So in this video I have 14 different bottles of perfume to talk about. And I'm just going to tell you whether I like the fragrance, whether I enjoyed using it, and whether I would repurchase. Because ultimately, whether you want to repurchase is really the true sign, isn't it, of whether you love that fragrance or not, or whether you're just sick of the sight of it by the end of the bottle. I have quite a large collection of fragrances now. I have over 100 perfume bottles. And really, when I filmed my perfume collection back in August, I realised just how many of those perfumes were right on the edge of being finished, and I thought, I don't want to waste these. I don't want them to go off because of oxidation, because of the air in the perfume bottles. And so I made a conscious effort over the last 6 months to target certain perfumes to finish them off, to make sure that I enjoyed every drop of them. So if this kind of content interests you, then please do give me a big thumbs up, because that tells me that I should continue making this kind of content. And also, if you haven't done already, please consider subscribing. If you are subscribed to my channel, then thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. I really love chatting to you all in the comments. I love hearing what people think of my videos and what people think of certain perfumes, and I just really appreciate it. So thank you so much for being here. And let's get on with the video, because I've got so many perfumes to talk about. So my first empty is one from Hugo Boss, and it's the Scent for Her EDP. So this fragrance I bought back in 2020, and I think it was a mistake. I think I meant to buy Private Accord, which is the chocolate orange one of this range that I think Jeremy Fragrance really hyped up back in 2020, and the whole of YouTube was talking about how good Private Accord was. And yeah, I just made a mistake. I bought the wrong one. So this one is more of a peachy fragrance actually in the main, but really because of the osmanthus in this fragrance, it comes off as slightly apricot-y to me. And as someone who really hates peach generally in fragrance, especially powdery, cloying, kind of patchouli peach, this is not that kind of peach. This is more of a sugary, sweet peach. And really, the only other note that I get in this fragrance is the freesia. You sort of get a bit of a floral touch to it, but it's really quite background, it's quite indistinct. I wouldn't say it's really anything more than a very sugary, sweet, kind of peachy fragrance. There's also a bit of warmth to it as well, but really that's it in the main. I think this fragrance for me was just a bit It sort of didn't really have very good projection, it didn't have good longevity. I ended up wearing this quite often to bed because of that, and that's how I really used this fragrance up. I wouldn't repurchase this fragrance because of that poor longevity, because of the really poor projection, and also because I wasn't really in love with the fragrance itself. I think, you know, considering I've got Private Accord, I'm quite happy with that one. I think if I were going to buy another one, I'd probably go for the Absolute, which is the one with the coffee. But really, I think I'm good with Private Accord for now. So that's the Scent for Her by Hugo Boss. So the second fragrance that I've ended up finishing is one from a celebrity perfume line, and it's Katy Perry's Indi. So this fragrance is incredibly cheap. I remember when I bought this back in springtime, I was absolutely amazed by the price of this fragrance. So you can get 30ml of this fragrance in the UK for less than £4, which is just insanely cheap, isn't it? So this fragrance, just ignore the notes. Really, to me, this is like a fruity green leaf. So almost like a blackberry leaf or a blackcurrant leaf, that kind of fruity but green smell. And it quickly transforms into a milky, slightly woody, but very much more like a skin-like sandalwood fragrance. So a milky skin-like sandalwood kind of fragrance. There's also sort of a hint of coconut almost in this fragrance as well. It really does have quite a lactonic feel to it. This one was quite snuggly and cozy and really quite a comforting fragrance. I think this fragrance actually has quite good longevity on things like clothes, but actually on skin, it doesn't really last that long. A couple of hours and it's kind of gone. And that's probably why I've used this fragrance up quite so quickly, because I was reapplying and respraying it. I think this fragrance has been actually compared to fragrances such as Santal 33 by Le Labo. I haven't tried that fragrance, so I don't know how close or not close these two fragrances are to each other. But I think, you know, the fact that people are comparing them, it kind of suggests that they are at least slightly similar. I think if you like other lactonic kind of milky sandalwood fragrances, then you'll probably like this one. So if you like things like Santal Blanc by Van Cleef & Arpels, you'll probably like something like this. They're not the same, but they're sort of in the same kind of fragrance family. I think there are quite a lot of these milky sandalwood fragrances out there to try, and they are a very popular DNA, aren't they? They're things that people tend to enjoy. So I think if you really do like that kind of thing, £4 is not a lot of money to risk on 30ml of this fragrance. And I'm really not adverse to buying this fragrance in future. I think I won't buy it for the time being, but I did really enjoy it. And actually, Indivisible by Katy Perry, I am interested to try. My only other experience of Katy Perry fragrances was Meow by Katy Perry. And I actually ended up decluttering that one because it was just too sweet. If you really like a milky berry fragrance though, you might like Meow. But yeah, so this one is Katy Perry's Indi. So my next empty is one from Thierry Mugler, and I bought this fragrance because I heard it was being discontinued and it was getting hyped on YouTube, and I just was curious to try it basically. So I ended up buying this one back in spring 2021. And I ended up buying a partial bottle because I couldn't find a full bottle at a reasonable price because it had just been discontinued. And this one is Alien Extraordinaire EDT by Thierry Mugler. So this fragrance is a mellow, soft citrus fragrance. It's almost a little bit bitter to begin with. There's a bit of neroli in here. It also is supposed to have a tea note, and I only really smell the tea in cooler weather conditions. I know that sounds odd, but I think this fragrance actually performs best in springtime. That's really the time when you should wear this fragrance. Summer just doesn't last at all. You can't smell it. And it's just so disappointing because when do you want to wear a citrus fragrance? You want to wear it in the summer, don't you? And actually this fragrance also has some kind of tropical flowers in it, and I also really wanted to smell those. Really you get like a little bit of background creaminess to this fragrance, but it's not really distinctive as a particular type of tropical flower. Then they're not things that really stand out in this fragrance at all. Really, this is just a very sort of mellow, citrusy alien fragrance. You do really strongly get that alien DNA in the background. But I'd say that this fragrance is very soft, very gentle, very much something that's a skin scent. It's a skin scent from only about 30 minutes in, and I think that's really why it disappointed me quite so much. I was expecting the alien power, but in a refreshing citrus and creamy tropical floral way with a beautiful tea note as well. And that's really not entirely what I got. So I wouldn't repurchase this even if I could, but now I think this fragrance is pretty much impossible to find and probably goes for a lot of money anyway. So even if I'd loved it, I probably wouldn't have been able to find it. So that's Alien Extraordinaire EDT by Thierry Mugler. So this next fragrance I bought back in 2020 because I'd seen loads of people on YouTube talk about it, and I was just intrigued because people were saying it smelled fishy, and I don't know, that just made me want to try it. I can't explain it. So this fragrance is also by Thierry Mugler, and it's called Womanity. So Womanity is something you will never see in a shop. You can sometimes buy it from the Mugler website. I'm not even sure whether it's been completely discontinued now, but it got reformulated. So I have the older formulation bottle, and the bottle itself is absolutely gorgeous. It's got like a woman's face on the side, and it just looks sort of almost like something from the Terminator or something like that. It's got this kind of ring on, kind of almost S&M-y with the ring on the bottle top. And yeah, just really distinctive bottle, and partially why I really liked it. So this fragrance has even been said to smell of, women's bits basically down there because of the slight fishiness to it that some people detect. To me, this is just like a beachy, figgy fragrance. It's very much like when you smell rock pools on a beach. It also smells like the sea spray coming off the sea on like a dull, dark day, or the grass that's growing further up the dunes, something like that. So this to me is more of a fig leaf fragrance than a fig fragrance in the main. It's woody, it's a little bit salty. It's just got a sort of slight marine feel about it. I can see why people don't enjoy this. I know it's controversial. I know that, so many people will tell you they hate this fragrance, but I didn't hate this one. I actually quite enjoyed it. This fragrance also had beastly projection and also amazing longevity. And I think really, even though I really enjoyed this fragrance, I wouldn't want to repurchase it because I know it's been reformulated and I don't see the point in buying something that I'm potentially going to be disappointed by. So yeah, I really liked Womanity and I'm sad it's gone, but at least I got my enjoyment out of it and finished it and wore it until every last drop had gone. So my next empty is actually a vintage bottle of Anaïs Anaïs by Cacharel. And this is one that I found at my mum's place when I was clearing out a drawer, and it just took me straight back to the 90s. I remember my mum buying this on a plane back from the US where we'd been visiting my brother. And yeah, her excitement at buying these miniatures, and this is one of those miniatures from that plane flight. And I remember that I would open all these miniature bottles and sniff them all, and this was the one that sort of I would recoil at. This is the one that I really didn't like. So I ended up trying this again and seeing whether I liked it basically, and my conclusion still is that I do not like Anaïs Anaïs. Anaïs Anaïs in the vintage formulation is incredibly strong, and really it's a perfume that's centered around floral notes. So it's mainly a lily fragrance for me, but there are just so many other florals in this fragrance that really you just get a cacophony of different florals, and it's sort of almost got like a bitter feeling to me somehow, something bitter in this fragrance. I went to try the more modern formulation of this fragrance, and really the modern formulation is a very shy version of this fragrance. This one is nuclear. The more modern one is very much quieter, something that they've really toned down. And in a way, it's almost a little bit screechier, I would say, the more modern formulation. I just didn't enjoy this fragrance, basically, is what I'm saying. And I'm glad that I retried it and experienced it and wore it, but it's definitely not something that I want to delve into. It just feels way too 80s for me, and yeah, it's not something that I enjoyed. So that's Anaïs Anaïs by Cacharel. So my next empty is one that I bought in a bundle of fragrances that I bought back in January, and I really bought the bundle for a vintage bottle of Alien. I wasn't really interested in any of the other fragrances in the bundle, and this one I had never heard of, but actually I ended up really enjoying. So this is Karl Lagerfeld's Karleidoscope. I mean, what a name. So this fragrance is a violet fragrance. It's based around violet, but it also has other powdery notes, like it has heliotrope, and it also has a little bit of a herbal feel, which I think is maybe from the Angelica. So to me, the Angelica comes off as something that's almost anisey or something like that. It's sort of got a little bit of a spiciness to it. In the dry down, it's really, again, more about that green herbal fragrance, but there's also sort of a vanilla-ness to it and a warmth to it. It's just a really inviting fragrance, and it's something that I found very comforting. I ended up wearing this one to work a lot because it did last the whole day, but it wasn't a massive beast of a projector. It was something that was quite close to skin, and it's something that smells quite elegant actually, and it's quite unusual. I think this fragrance actually reminds me a lot of Balenciaga Paris, but this one is really much the friendlier of those two fragrances. So if you know Balenciaga Paris, it's quite an aloof kind of fragrance. It's almost a metallic, violety, violet leaf kind of fragrance. So yeah, I think even if I could find this again, I probably wouldn't repurchase it because I do have Balenciaga Paris, and that's sort of scratching that itch for now. So that's Karleidoscope by Karl Lagerfeld. So the next fragrance empty is one from Azzaro, and this one is Wanted Girl. So this is a little 7.5ml travel spray that I bought, I think, sometime last summer, probably about August 2021. And I bought this because this fragrance had been hyped a lot on YouTube back in 2020, and the curiosity had got to me, and I couldn't find it anywhere to try it in a shop. So I thought I'll just buy this little travel spray and try it out. So this fragrance, I really felt a little bit disappointed by it when I first tried it because people were selling it as something with a really prominent dulce de leche kind of note. And to me, when I first spray this, it's very much more a peppery, gingery, floral kind of fragrance. It's something that doesn't really have that dulce de leche kind of milky, lactonic feel to me in the beginning at all. As it dries, you do get more of that milky lactonic feel, but it is just overall just a really super sweet floral fragrance, really. I think I've been through cycles of disappointment and then sort of enjoying it more with this fragrance. And really, I ended this fragrance quite enjoying it, really. I really didn't like it at points in going through this little bottle. But actually, on my almost last wearing of this fragrance, I was wearing it to work and somebody walked past my office. So I work in an open office. And bearing in mind that I sit by the window, which is about maybe 5-6 meters away from the corridor, someone walked past and said, "Wow, is that you that smells that good?" And I was amazed because I always thought this fragrance was a skin scent. I thought it was quite, close to skin, didn't really project much. And also it was the afternoon, so that I'd had this fragrance on like 4 hours maybe, and they could still smell me. I was absolutely astounded. Anyway, so people really do seem to like this fragrance on you, and I've had other compliments on this fragrance as well, which, considering the size of this bottle and probably the number of times I actually wore this fragrance around other people, i.e. at work, I find that astounding. So this one clearly is popular just with other people, but then sweet scents are popular, aren't they? So yeah, I don't feel the need to repurchase this one, but I did end up liking this one, even though I went through times where I was disappointed with it. I would really like to try Wanted Girl by Night, but again, Azzaro seem to be just not stocking that in the UK very much. I've been Googling and I just can't seem to find it in the UK. So yeah, if I see Wanted Girl by Night, I probably will end up trying it, but I don't feel the need to repurchase this one. So that's Azzaro Wanted Girl. So the next fragrance is one from Moschino, and it's actually my headless teddy bear, and it's Toy 2 Bubblegum by Moschino. So this fragrance is one that I purchased in a tester bottle because I wasn't sure whether I would get on with it, basically. I tried it in store and I'd sort of fallen for it, but I didn't really want to pay the prices for an entire bottle, so I just got a 100ml tester. But actually when I bought it, there was probably only about 25-30ml left in here. So it's basically equivalent of a tiny bottle of Moschino's Toy 2 Bubblegum, but at a much lower price. So this fragrance is completely addictive because the first 2 minutes smell exactly like Hubba Bubba bubblegum. Really super fruity, super fun, super sweet, joyous childhood bubblegum. But really, after those 2 minutes have gone, it then dries down into something that's a little bit more generic. So it is still quite interesting. It is a blueberry fragrance, I think, in the main blueberry rose fragrance, but with a bit of a kick to it. So there's a bit of ginger, a bit of cinnamon. And then there's also a little bit of ambroxan as well, which I think is supposed to help the lasting power, but really clearly doesn't. So the ambroxan here is kind of super clean and clear, and it's not the type of grainy ambroxan that really bothers me. So I'm fine with the ambroxan in this fragrance. I think ultimately just it disappoints me because after those 2 minutes are up, I just want to spray it again because I want the bubble gum back. But yeah, this one, I just don't feel the need to repurchase because of that disappointment of the bubblegum fading. I'm not willing to spend that much money on something that I only really like, or only really super like, the first 2 minutes of. But actually this one is a compliment getter. People do think this fragrance is fun. They like smelling this fragrance even in the dry down. So yeah, I wouldn't repurchase this one, but I did enjoy it. So that's Toy 2 Bubblegum by Moschino. So this next fragrance is a fragrance that has been notoriously reformulated because they actually even changed the notes of the fragrance. I mean, how blatant is that? Normally companies try and do it quite secretly, don't they? They try and hide when they've reformulated something, but with this fragrance, it's blatant. So I have the old formulation of Gucci Rush. So this fragrance is just something else. This fragrance is very vintage smelling. It's definitely something that really makes you think almost of the 80s in a way, but really this is a fragrance that came out in the 90s. It's in this kind of cassette shaped bottle. And this fragrance is basically a peach patchouli fragrance in the main. So the peach here is just ultimately fake and a little bit powdery, but not too much. It's not something I absolutely hate. I do have problems with peach in fragrances, so that's why I'm saying that. It's not something I hated. I did think this fragrance smelled incredibly plasticky though, and I think that's really the idea. The idea of this fragrance is that it's meant to smell artificial, something that's not of this world. So this fragrance reminds me of Barbie dolls. It makes me think of like smooth vinyl flesh. The fruitiness here is like a scratch and sniff kind of fruitiness, that kind of powdery, almost, fake kind of fruitiness. There's also like a dry earthiness in this fragrance, which is sort of a mix of the patchouli and the coriander in it. And yeah, it's just very screechy, very loud, really projects, really long lasting, basically an eternal fragrance, this one. And I can see why people love this, because it is just so different to everything else that I've ever tried. It's a very individualistic fragrance. I haven't tried the new formulation of Gucci Rush, but I can't imagine that they smell similar because the note profiles are just so different. This fragrance does have vanilla in it, but I wouldn't say it's overly sweet even in the dry down. It's something that's really patchouli dominated most of the way, but it's quite a dry feeling fragrance. I don't think this fragrance is me. I think this is quite screechy, it's quite loud, it's quite in your face, and I'm just not that kind of person. But you know, that's interesting sometimes, isn't it? To try different fragrances and to experience almost taking on different personas from fragrances. And I feel like I got that with this fragrance. So yeah, I wouldn't repurchase this fragrance. I didn't like it sufficiently to warrant that, but I did enjoy trying it. And actually, you know, this is such a weird bottle, isn't it? It just makes you want to try it. It makes you want to pick it up and think, what does this smell like? So that's Rush by Gucci. So the next fragrance is one from Jimmy Choo, and it's actually their signature fragrance. So it's Jimmy Choo by Jimmy Choo, and this is the EDP version. So I used to own Stars from this line, which is more of a candied orange fragrance, and it really made me feel very Christmassy wearing that one. But I really did quite like that one. Candied orange and toffee, basically. Very, very sweet. This one is just not quite there for me. It's something that I almost decluttered a few times, but I just decided that this is such a small bottle, it's only 40 ml, I'll just use it up. And this fragrance reminded me of sort of lab solvents in a way. I work in a lab, and it's just got a feeling of pear drops about it, so sort of those ketone smells that you get in labs. And I think that's what I didn't particularly enjoy about this fragrance. It does smell very artificial and almost like something you'd stick down a carpet with, almost like a carpet glue. I found this one did have sort of some redeeming features though. It does have a sort of an addictive quality to it, and it was something that made me keep coming back to it. It is super sweet, it is very artificial, but there's also this super clean patchouli to it, and actually that's quite nice. It is something that I think people would wear for going out more than, you know, wearing to work or anything else. It's not really a staying at home kind of fragrance. It's quite loud and quite a strong one in a way. I don't think I'd repurchase this because I just didn't enjoy it enough, but I can see why people like this. There is something about this that keeps you coming back to it, even if you don't particularly like it. Like I don't think I particularly like this fragrance, but there was something that just made me want to smell it. But I think that I'm really done with this line now. I've tried Fever in store, so I think Jimmy Choo is something that's going to leave my collection and stay out of it. So that's Jimmy Choo by Jimmy Choo. So these next two fragrances, I didn't know whether to include them in this video at all because they are actually fake fragrances, and they are things that I ended up using as room sprays because I'm never going to spray a fake fragrance on my body. But I just thought it was interesting, maybe just as a warning to other people about what to look out for. So the first one I bought as part of a bundle, and I actually wanted the other fragrances in the bundle, and so I accepted this being a fake and just bought it anyway, and then just took the hit for, you know, paying for something that's not real. But this is Chanel's Chance, or it's supposed to be, but look at the printing on this bottle. It is just atrocious, isn't it? That's how I knew this one was a fake. So yeah, I just used it up as a room spray. It smelled nothing like Chanel Chance. And the other fragrance that I ended up using as a room spray was one that I actually did think was real when I bought it. So this is Coco Mademoiselle, or is supposed to be. And this fragrance was one that I really thought was real because it just looks real, doesn't it? And actually it has the printing on the bottom, it has the serial number on the back, but actually the seller was really evil and took pictures with the lid on. But actually when you take the lid off, it looks very much like a fake, doesn't it? And, you know, that would be obvious if she'd have taken the pictures with the lid off. So I did get my money back for that one because the seller couldn't really argue, and that's something that I just ended up spraying as a room spray. It didn't really smell like Coco Mademoiselle either. It smelled like slightly off. It smelled like it resembled Coco Mademoiselle, but it just wasn't right. And actually, Francis, Happiness Sparkles here on YouTube, heard that I had bought a fake bottle of Coco Mademoiselle by accident, and she actually was in the process of decluttering her Coco Mademoiselle because she prefers the Sofia Vergara dupe perfume. I can't remember what it's called. Is it Love or is it the other one? I'm not sure. Anyway, she prefers that perfume to the Coco Mademoiselle, and that's why she was getting rid of her Coco Mademoiselle. And she was so kind to send me her partial bottle of Coco Mademoiselle. And I'd just like to say, Frances, I'm really enjoying wearing Coco Mademoiselle to work. I usually wear it when I'm doing presentations. And yeah, I feel like a boss lady. So thank you so much for sending me that one. So yeah, for both of those fragrances, clearly I won't repurchase because they were fakes. But I just thought it was kind of interesting and something that, you know, people should know about. If they're buying fragrances secondhand online, you need to be aware that the stuff that you can get is fake, and especially with Chanel. And really, I should have known better with Coco Mademoiselle trying to buy a secondhand bottle, because the likelihood of getting a real one is really quite low. So the next fragrance is one from Miyake, and this is a fragrance that I bought back in the springtime because I wanted something refreshing for the summer. And this is L'Eau d'Issey Florale by Miyake. So this fragrance I ended up wearing most days, actually, either as a main fragrance in the summer or as a fragrance that I would spritz on in the evening when I got home from work as kind of a refresher when my actual fragrance had faded for the day. And this fragrance is along the lines of the rest of the L'Eau d'Issey line, but this one has a sort of a greenness to it, a green floralness. So this sort of has a lily note and also a really kind of fresh, green, aquatic feeling rose to it. It doesn't really have any kind of discernible base to it. It's sort of there and then gone, really. It does make me think of carbonated water in a way. It is that kind of refreshing feeling that you get from carbonated water, but it's not really fizzy, I wouldn't say. This one actually had better longevity in the summertime than it did the rest of the year, weirdly. It seemed to last better in the hot weather than at other times, you know, in cooler weather. I wouldn't repurchase it. I just think the L'Eau d'Issey line, unless you buy it on severe discount, is really heavily overpriced. I thought this fragrance smelled quite synthetic. I liked it in a way because of the refreshingness of it, and it did serve its purpose in the summer, but I just don't think it was that special. So I wouldn't repurchase this one, but I did actually enjoy using it. So that's L'Eau d'Issey Florale by Miyake. So the final fragrance is actually a miniature of La Vie Belle by Lancôme, and actually I had quite a few of these little miniatures. I think I had 4 at one point, and this is the last one. So La Vie Belle is finally out of my collection. And I can't say I'm sad about that. I mean, La Vie Belle is not a bad fragrance at all. It's just something that you smell a lot of, and I just don't really want to smell like everybody else out there. And it's not something that I particularly love. It's something that I like, but I don't love it. So La Vie Belle, if you haven't been around for the last 10 years, is a really strong patchouli fragrance. So it's a really strong, sweet patchouli fragrance. It has a praline note in it, which really lends it all that sweetness. So really, I think that's the ethyl maltol in this fragrance. And really, this fragrance is something that wouldn't have existed without fragrances like Angel, where they used ethyl maltol and patchouli in a combination. But in this fragrance, the ethyl maltol is really amped up to the max. This fragrance has like 10 times the amount of ethyl maltol as Angel does. So yeah, I mean, this fragrance must have been one of the best sellers of the last 10 years for sure. And I don't really know exactly what made it so popular, whether it was the advertising campaign with Julia Roberts or whether it's just the fact that it really lasts and really projects, because those two things are really things that people love in fragrance, aren't they? I'm not going to repurchase this one, but I have actually purchased the Leclerc version of this fragrance because I heard that one was being discontinued. And I do quite like the Leclerc. So yeah, I'm not going to repurchase this one, but I did enjoy using this. So that's La Vie Belle by Lancôme. So that's the final fragrance in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, then please press the like button. And please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please let me know which fragrances you've been using up. And also, if you haven't seen them already, I'm going to leave my empties playlist down below so you can enjoy those other videos if you want to. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.